Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an all-new edition of On the Mark here on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15, 89.5 FM WSKB, and our media partners at Agawam Media and Southwick Community Programming. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and today we're going to spend an hour learning about innovation and innovation in healthcare. I brought on my pal, Sean Moloney. Sean and I have worked together for years on various projects. We were a part of a podcast series that developed during the pandemic called Game Changers in Medicine, which profiled some of the people in the medical fields that made amazing discoveries that today treat all kinds of health conditions, from insulin and that treats diabetes to warfarin that treats heart things. And in Game Changers in Medicine, Sean profiled 6 different game changers and what they did. Sean's on to new ventures since his company Dramatic Health started that, and it's always great to have Sean here. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Mark. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, what I was thinking as I was driving into the studio this morning, you profiled a whole group of game changers in the medical field, and subsequent to the pandemic have become one yourself because you're involved in this entirely new project. And over the course of the hour, you're going to introduce us to some of the people involved in it with you. But what made you make this pivot from Dramatic Health to this new venture?
Well, Mark, working with Dr. Pillay in the context of our work in Game Changers in Medicine led me to conversations with him and others that there was a real opportunity to better educate physicians and therefore have them deliver care that would improve patient lives, patient outcomes. And I was inspired by that. And, for years I've been in the industry, and I had observed that medical education, clinical medical education, had a long ways to go, I think, to deliver its promise. And over the course of discussions and then meeting some really incredible IT developers, we converged by saying, hey, listen, let's partner with mixed media and XR experts. Let's have this be medical doctor designed. Let's prioritize, as I always have, great content. And perhaps we could create some learning environments with mixed media and virtual, which we'll talk a little bit later, and dumb that down. There's something here. And so we formed Inhabiting Health. And I'd be so honored to be a game changer. But certainly, I'm in a very important classroom myself right now. And I believe that we are certainly onto something. And why this is so important for the audience is that it will lead to a decrease of cost and increase the quality of care. Medications and treatments are increasingly complex, and we have to be able to educate our physicians and partner with them in order to accomplish that.
And a lot of times we have to put it all in perspective, Sean. Both you and I we've been colleagues and best of friends for years. We both have gone through some health issues. The pandemic comes along and it changes the way we as individuals relate to our doctors and our healthcare providers. Before the pandemic, I never thought about visiting a doctor and having a telehealth visit where I could talk with my doctor or my nurse or my caregiver on Zoom or FaceTime or something like that. And it was more convenient than picking up and going down to a doctor's office or the hospital for this or that. And other things like if you have a smartphone, for example, maybe you have blood pressure issues or you're diabetic and you're watching your glucose levels, you can now plug your continuous monitor, your glucose monitor into your smartphone, and it not only keeps a record of where you're at, but it tells your doctor where you're at. And people can have their blood pressure checked while they're living their daily lives without going to the doctor's office. And a lot of this came to light during the pandemic when things change quickly. So the work that you're doing, Sean, is all next steps based on what seems to be a lot of progress in a lot of areas in just a short period of time.
Absolutely, Mark. You know, the pandemic accelerated the adoption of technology, especially in health, like never before. It was measured before, I think, in the growth of dog years, 7 years to every 1 year, technology would grow. But now it's moving at a quadratic pace. And I also believe that it's increasing our ability to talk with other patients, our ability to communicate with physicians, as I most recently did with Mass Brigham, with my doctor. And it cut down the travel time. He had more time for me. I had more visuals to look at. And very much that experience is somewhat anchored in what we're speaking about today, which is to create mixed media learning environments in which the educational messages have greater impact, but physicians can choose different patient cases to learn from. They can cast their own journey through the content. And it's a very exciting time as all of this converges. But I will say at the center point of all of this is just great doctors, great medical writing, clinical accuracy, sensitive patient bedside care, albeit through Zoom or in the waiting room or at bedside. So those fundamentals, those principles have not gone away. We just have an opportunity to move them into new environments, such as the one we're speaking about today.
And I know that you were involved with your company, Dramatic Health, over the years, was profiling doctors and patients and their experiences. And then when COVID hit, it became difficult for you to actually go in and talk to a doctor or videotape them or a patient and their experiences because of the restrictions that were put in place by who could enter a medical facility, who was at risk for catching COVID, and this and that. Did that inspire you in some way to change course here?
Yes, it's a very interesting theme and question. Um, so, as much as the pandemic accelerated changes, it also accelerated the demise of certain business models that just could not be upheld. So, in my case, to go out and film patients and physicians in operating rooms, in houses, and so forth, I didn't have access to them. It didn't work. So I had to change too as an innovator. And we increasingly went online and we filmed through Zoom. We did the best we could do with that. And I think we succeeded in many ways. But then, you know, a lot of folks now are filming themselves, which is very encouraging. I always knew that someday I would have to put the cameras down and let them be in the hands of those subjects that I filmed. And so it was a bittersweet transition, but I was also happy to see that the real patient story, which arguably Dramatic Health architected 18, 20 years ago, that was now in the hands of patients and in the hands of patients and physicians through telemedicine. So this is the next frontier. There's no question about that. I believe in it. We're only as good as the doctors that we've partnered with. But yes, that was the acceleration of a business model that had come to the end of its last chapter. However, that prioritization of great content and emotional eliciting content and filming patients, multiple patients, bringing patients, physicians, caregivers together, that principally has not gone away.
Do you find that that as you're evolving, you've evolved into this new company and all of that post pandemic? Did the pandemic change your personal point of view and how to get these stories out and how to better communicate?
It certainly did, Mark. You know, one of the things that we've spoken about in former episodes was the art and science of storytelling, building narratives. And at play there is just the critical importance of asking the right questions, really knowing your subject, subject selection, and so forth. So I think, if anything, what it has led me to believe is that at the center of health is a good story. And that story can teach in ways that go well beyond didactic speeches. One of the qualities of what Inhabiting Health is bringing together with mixed media and XR is that physicians in this, there's research published on this, many research reports on this, is that a didactic speech for a physician or even for a patient does not work as well as an interactive experience. Recall is less, impact is less. And we're able to create interactive narratives and stories and allow for learners to choose which directions they want to go down with the content. And so it certainly prioritizes the narrative, but also prioritizes the need for greater interactivity. That's absolutely critical.
So the project that we're talking about today, when did you start on it, or at least think about it, and when do you think it'll come full tilt?
Sure. I've been studying it for a very long time. Innovations can't be ahead of themselves. They can't be too far behind. They have to be timed right. That's most likely why they fail. And so I felt as though it was the right time um, uh, to form partnerships with physicians and mixed media XR specialists and begin to frame this out in ways that it would have reach and impact. And so we are developing pilots at this time in demonstrations. I was recently invited to speak at the ACCME, which is the Accrediting Council for Medical Education, which I couldn't be more excited about. And so we will emerge in the next couple of months with many different programs, also diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, cardiometabolic, and these programs will be looked at academically alongside Dr. Rubin Pillay, who will be on a little bit later, so that we can actually show evidence-based research empirically that we were able to make a difference, to make better doctors, and to make better patients. And that's at the core of what we are.
So later on in the course of this hour, we're going to meet two of your colleagues. One is Dr. Rubin Pillay, who you and I have both worked with. He's an astounding individual. He is a physician. He's got advanced degrees in business. He's known for entrepreneurship in business as well as medicine. He's cutting edge. He's done a TED Talk that is phenomenal. He's what's known as a medical futurist. And he's affiliated with the University of Alabama in Birmingham. And the other is Harrison Lee, who you're brought on board as a colleague on this project. Why did you choose these two particular people to partner with, and who are some of the other people that are involved?
Sure. Well, like Dr. Pillay, he speaks for himself. He's just a wonderful partner, a great thinker. I learned something new from him every day. We want this to be doctor designed. There's a lot of emphasis on the technology. Our solutions and work isn't technology. It's the application of this technology to create a unified health experience accessible and engaging for learners everywhere. And we need to we need to have partnerships with our physicians, but also just to keep in mind that the mixed media and XR team is exceptional, but they also share that sentiment. And there are others behind us, which are programmers, medical writers, producers, 3D artists. It really will take a community to raise this child. And it's very important that we have an interdisciplinary team that comes together and is principally united by, our solutions at work is not the technology.
Let me interrupt for a second. You use the term XR that people may not know what you're referring to. So can you sort of define that?
Sure. And Harrison, who will be on a little bit later as well, will take this even further. But what we're talking about is, and you don't have to have the glasses. You can actually watch this on mobile or desktop. What we're talking about is bringing multiple forms of media together. There's avatars, there are 3D modeling, There was the ability to interact with the content, and bringing all of this together to create these multimedia, mixed media environments. That's what we're speaking about. And I know it's new to a lot of people. It's coming quick. I know that few people have been able to dumb it down, and Harrison will be doing that a little bit later, because I can understand how some people might look at this as being something from Mars. But remember, mobile phones came out of nowhere, and typing on glass with the iPhone seemed to be foreign. This is a little bit uncomfortable, or it's new, and it's something to learn. I can imagine that. And one of our goals is really to dumb it down and to hold hands and to help cross that divide very carefully and patiently.
So ultimately, you're going to be devising programs that teach doctors to better communicate in what they're doing with their patients, with their colleagues, and all of that using the best available technology. So what used to be something you'd go to a classroom to learn, or you'd go to a hotel and a seminar to learn, now instead of going to a Zoom, maybe you're learning it off your phone, or maybe you're putting on a pair of headsets while you're jogging or walking, and you're learning this information that you can again go on to your patient and chat with your patient in a telehealth conference or on the phone, or you can be talking with a patient and say, let me send you this video to look at, and it shows up on their device.
Yeah, what we're doing also, Mark, we're helping to remove geography, right? And we're creating mixed media classrooms that also allow for greater patient representation. And so physicians can learn from different patients, and they can interact in ways that is similar to being there in person. That's very powerful. And again, I go back to the fact that it will improve clinical education, patient education, but it will reduce costs. And that's something we can all relate to.
Definitely. And also convenience. I can just imagine, in terms of my own running back and forth to Boston to see my doctors, the idea that I could be doing this online and FaceTime while I'm at home or at work or in the car, and have the same things that I would have to drive 100 miles for would make my own care and treatment more convenient, and my doctor better able to communicate what he or she wants to me, because the technology is available for them to do that.
Absolutely. And may I add something, Mark? And that is that it's good for education to also be entertainment. We refer to this as edutainment. And that's good because it makes it more memorable. Learning is fun. And we have that opportunity in these environments for physicians today and patients tomorrow to make learning fun and memorable. And that's a tremendous opportunity.
It certainly is. We're going to be joined by Harrison Lee in just a moment, and Harrison Lee is one of Sean's colleagues. But before he joins us, we should acknowledge some of the underwriters that make On the Mark and other programs possible here on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. So we're going to introduce some of those underwriters, and we'll be back with more On the Mark. Don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Ken Stomsky is our engineer today. If you've missed a part of today's program, or you want to watch it again, or share it with friends, or share it with your healthcare provider, we're archiving this hour on WSKB's Community Radio YouTube page. We're joined by Sean Moloney, who's with us for the hour, and his colleague, Harrison Lee, who is an expert in the field. Harrison, welcome to On the Mark.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
It's good to see you. So can you tell us what your role in this project is?
Yeah, no problem. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Inhabiting Health. I help lead the business strategy for the organization, and my background actually is in building up the backbone for what has become the framework for what Inhabiting Health is from a technology standpoint.
Okay, and in your vision, what do you, Sean has explained his vision for Inhabiting Health. What's your vision for it?
Yeah, look, I mean, as far as this augmented reality space that we're in is today, metaverse is growing and it's becoming prevalent. For us, it's not really about the hardware or the technology, but really the medium that we're able to actually now deliver, whether it's learning, whether it's more clinical applications inside this environment that leverages your entire space. So somebody that's, whether they're wearing a headset or getting acclimated into what augmented virtual reality is about, we allow people to actually just use their smartphone, an everyday device, to be able to actually access this medium and be able to engage themselves inside the learning aspects of what we can do for better memory and recall. And that actually allows them to be able to participate in the simulation processes as if they're actually there in person working with a patient or any other type of provider interactions that they would have.
So this is something that the technology will allow them to be at work or be in their car driving to or from work or be at home or jogging or walking or whatever and have the same experience that they might have as if they were in one-on-one in a classroom.
You got it. So it's greater impact, whether you're on the web, actually on a video call, being able to actually experience what this new medium is about, or you actually want to hop on your smartphone device, on a tablet, on an actual augmented and virtual reality headset that's becoming more and more accessible to the everyday consumer. And now you'll be able to actually interact with 2D and 3D content that is presented right in front of you in full fidelity, and actually interact with other participants inside this space as if you're together in the same room.
Can you explain it? So let's say a lot of our listeners, for example, they know about healthcare because they're participating in it on one level or another. How is this going to change their healthcare experience when they talk to their doctor? Will their doctor be better prepared to deal with them, to make the most of their appointment time? How do you think you see this changing the individual's experience?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at it from the healthcare professional perspective, right? If they actually have access to this medium to continue their medical education and be able to actually learn as they're actually going through the simulation processes, they're better prepared to interact with the patient, especially if you have a simulation of a patient in front of you during that interaction as well. They could actually work out or play out what that type of interaction is like, and now it actually leads to better outcomes. From the perspective of the patient, now you think about a generation that is accustomed to their cell phone devices that they carry around with you each and every day. There are certain types of consultations or post-treatment options where you don't necessarily need to actually spend all that time scheduling an appointment, but now instantly you would be able to hop in and actually having a healthcare professional on the other end going through with you your patient case, and being able to do so in such a way that is more personalized and tailored to you. And you would be able to actually come together, look at the case, or I'm sorry, your medical history, or actually see anatomical objects while they point out to you exactly what you might be experiencing or what it is that just occurred in terms of the surgical procedure or whatever else that you actually experienced.
So Sean had said early on in our conversation this morning that this will become a very cost-effective tool, that it will lower expenses on some level. What will the doctor see in terms of cost savings, and what will the patient see?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is just like you're experiencing today. Everything is on the cloud. So everything becomes very cost effective because this is built out as a subscription based solution. And it's something that, just like your Zoom call or any other technology that you provide as an enablement tool for you to work more effectively or be able to get treated more effectively, is just a similar type of a business model as that in terms of how it gets priced out. So those savings eventually get passed on not only to the care delivery mechanism, but also from health insurance perspective. If you're actually providing more preventative maintenance, I'm sorry, preventative care, you would be able to actually save in the long run as people are able to get treated before anything serious happens.
So, do you think that the medical community should be interested and buy into this? Will the insurance companies be enthused by a project like this? Will it cut their costs and save them money ultimately?
100%. We look at it from the three P's: the provider side, the patient side, as well as ultimately the payer side as well. Those health insurance companies are absolutely going to be critical and a key component in making sure that our solution is built out and accountability is held all around.
Now, right now, you say that this will be available on a smartphone, a tablet, all kinds of devices. As we move every year, we get new devices, bigger, better. Are you building this for the devices of the future or the devices that are in use right now? Because we go from 4G to 5G, then ultimately there'll be a 6G or something like this. Will this be adaptive, or will people have to update all the time?
Yeah, that great question. I mean, this is device agnostic. We're absolutely building for what people are holding in their hands today. This is something where we not only want to make sure that people are getting acclimated into what the metaverse is about and be able to graduate themselves into these new generation devices that are coming onto the market. And we are preparing for those new devices as well and building in such a way that's ubiquitous and common across standards for all these type of devices.
One of the things that we've learned is we become more technically savvy and all of that, is that people's attention spans seem to get less and less and less. People don't seem to be able to concentrate on a video that lasts for more than 3 or 4 minutes, a YouTube thing. And you look at what's out there, for example, on YouTube, and maybe it's a 12-minute video, and that's taxing somebody's attention span. Will this entire project help people to understand tough concepts and bring it down, that it has an entertainment value, and it attracts their attention and holds them for more than 3 minutes?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And Sean might have already told you. I mean, one of the things that we espouse is medical edutainment in this, is that it actually brings people into the space very much like gaming. Gaming's been using this type of technology for some time now, and now it's becoming something that's much more practical and pragmatic for you to be using as a business application. And we're building out the experience so that an everyday user, whether it's a patient interacting with a healthcare professional, two healthcare professionals coming together, they would be able to find what they need and actually have that meaningful conversation right inside the space, and have so in such a quick manner that they can move on and continue with their day.
How will it accommodate people with hearing issues or vision issues when they're dealing with this? People that have eyesight problems or difficulty in hearing. Will it adapt to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And look, and this is where if you have different types of disabilities, this could certainly help accommodate for those. Think about hearing situation. Spatial audio is something that's built inside these headsets and inside our platform, so that it would really allow you to amplify in certain instances where it might compensate for some of the areas where certain patients or others would need those compensations used for. Think about vision today already. You have headsets that are helping people see better. And if we actually build that, incorporate that technology inside what we're building for, along with other type of audio sensory and haptic alerts, these are things that can certainly help improve the lives of everyday people.
And what about people whose language is other than English? Will this be a bilingual or trilingual? Can it be built out so that, let's say, one doctor does not speak English and another does, that there'll be a translation, like a Google Translator or something built into it, so that language is not a barrier to learning?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can think about that case in the sense of having a very specialist or a surgeon who is an expert in their field. Maybe in a rural part where a patient doesn't have access necessarily locally to a doctor that they can actually see for a particular treatment option. Well, now you can actually holoport somebody into that space, and maybe that physician is not an English speaker in the US, but they can actually speak in their local language. On the other end, it gets translated for them with the right medical terminology behind it so that everybody understands. But on the other end, perhaps as a patient, you might actually want this spoken to you in very consumer friendly terms that you would understand,
Yeah.
and that medical concept into normal language for you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have learned personally, not only covering health issues, but dealing with my own health issues, is you sit down with a doctor sometimes or a provider, and they're using very medical terms that I have no clue how to pronounce what they're saying, let alone what they're talking about. But I would assume if you're adding a second language into this, it's got to be programmed in a way that somebody who doesn't speak medical speak or healthcare speak will be able to understand what the person who does speak it is saying.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Imagine a physician saying myocardial infarction in Portuguese, but I actually hear it as a heart attack that I know I've just experienced.
Right. And my other question is, as it becomes more consumer friendly, I mean, you have doctors that obviously will be able to have certain kind of technology to access this system, but as they want their patients to access the system or their patient's family, how user friendly will the equipment be? Will they actually be able to use whatever phone they're using or tablet, or download some kind of software to make it easier, or will they have to buy new equipment to make it work?
Now, again, that goes back to being device agnostic. Your everyday smartphone that you hold in your hand today uh, can already be using this technology. I mean, there's over 150 million devices that already support mobile AR. And as old devices get deprecated and new devices actually come onto market, all of them have that ability built in. So it's just a matter of actually downloading an app, and you can hop in instantly inside a meeting.
Okay, so it will ultimately be as simple as downloading an app to whatever device that you're using.
It is today. That's just
Okay.
how simple.
Now, because I'm not sure how technically savvy some of our audience members are, I'm just trying to make sure that they get the concept that this is going to be pretty simple and easy to use.
You bet. And we built for that from day one. That was the most critical element, is making sure that from a human-centered approach design aspect, that we're accommodating for everyday users that don't have that necessarily tech-savvy background to be able to use this type of experience.
And as you're working on developing this program, as new technology or a new idea comes to pass, how quick will it be for you to take that new technology and develop it and bring it to fruition?
We're always on top of the latest and greatest in terms of technology. And what we do is really look at the protocols and the standards behind them. What's great is that over time now, these quote unquote metaverse standards are becoming more commonplace. So think about your Apple phone and having iOS app versus an Android app, and how you can quickly deploy an app for both. That's how seamless this has become. So as we're actually evolving as a company, the hardware, the software, and the landscape is evolving with it, and it becomes easier and easier for us to quickly adapt to everything that comes out into the market.
In your background, how did you get involved with this, with Sean and this whole group here? What brought you to this? What interested you?
Sure. I mean, my background has always been in B2B and subscription-based services. I've had a communication platform in the past that was also one that was novel at the time. And we've been building a backbone for what this entire metaverse landscape has become for a considerable amount of time. But then we were able to actually team up with healthcare experts such as Sean, such as Dr. Pillay, who you'll be speaking with next. And we've been able to form this venture that now specifically targets the healthcare community and making sure that we can actually rapidly respond to the needs of patients, healthcare professionals, to deliver a solution that's going to be far more advantageous than what you have today in terms of care.
And in this journey that you're doing with Dr. Pillay and Sean, has there been any surprises for you or any aha moments? This is really bigger than I thought, or this is really going to be more exciting than I thought as you're going from day to day?
Yeah, I think every day is an aha moment for me. I mean, around there's just so much to consider, not only from the medical expertise side, but also from the med legal and regulatory review side that you need to consider for. This is what my partners bring to the table, and together we're able to build a solution that is fitting, and so one that can actually be crossing the table for commercialization.
When you talk with physicians who are primarily going to be accessing this, what are their initial reactions right now? Are they excited about this being new, or do they have hesitations? And what is your biggest challenge in explaining what you're doing to a physician?
And seeing is believing is just one of those things, and we made it very super simple for somebody to onboard inside of the experience. That's the first aspect. It's no different than you actually logging on to a video conference call. We made it so that somebody can actually access, and when they're actually inside the space and they begin to visualize exactly what it is that we're talking about, and seeing me there with them presently inside their space, being able to know exactly where they're positioned and where they're looking at, what content we're bringing between us that we can interact with, that gets them very excited about the possibilities that this entire medium presents.
It sounds fascinating. And how quickly is it growing? I mean, you've got this plan going now. Is it growing faster than you thought, or has it become more overwhelming, or do you really see it growing in specific steps?
It's phase approaches, but then every time you get that one, whether it's impact from the landscape at large or from the world at large, think about the pandemic, that really boosted and accelerated the need for a solution such as this. If you had a solution like this during the pandemic, you could actually be bringing doctors together with patients, learning about treatment options for COVID-19 while they're doing research in the labs or actually treating patients without having to risk human contact also.
Terrific. We've got to take a quick break here to acknowledge our underwriters that make this program possible. We've been chatting with Sean Moloney and Harrison Lee. Harrison, if you want to stay on for the next 20 minutes when Dr. Pillay joins us, you're welcome to. But if you have other meetings and things you need to go to, that's fine too.
No problem. I'll stick around.
Terrific. So we're going to take a break to acknowledge our underwriters. We'll be back with Sean Moloney, Harrison Lee, and Dr. Rubin Pillay. Ken Stomsky is our chief engineer today. I'm Mark Auerbach, and we'll return after these announcements, so don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donuts shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Saturdays were made for polka. Tune in to the Polka Jammer Network starting at 6 a.m. and Polka Hall of Famer Billy Bellina, Breakfast at BB at 8:30.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Ken Stomsky is our chief engineer today. We're chatting with Sean Moloney, Harrison Lee, and Dr. Rubin Pillay. All are involved in this really fascinating project that's going to help your doctor be better able to continue his or her education and be able to streamline that to work with patients and to make healthcare easier and cost-effective and more viable for patients. And if you've missed a part of today's program, or you want to share it with friends or your healthcare team, or watch it again, it's archived on WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. So joining us in the conversation for the remainder of this program is Dr. Rubin Pillay. He is a medical futurist. He is a professor of healthcare innovation and entrepreneurship at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. He's a family physician, a clinical pharmacologist. He holds a PhD in business administration. He's known for entrepreneurship, and he was the host of Game Changers in Medicine, which was a podcast series that was launched by Sean Moloney and his team at Dramatic Health. And that's where I got to work with Dr. Pillay. And Dr. Pillay, it's great to have you on the program. And I can't hear you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I appreciate the invitation. It's good to be here with you.
It's good to see you. So you're involved in this whole new project with Sean and Harrison. What brought you to the project?
Well, I think, given the space that I operate in, I've identified very early on that one of the key technologies that's going to shape the future of health and healthcare, including the training of physicians and other healthcare professionals, was going to be the use of extended reality technology. So, with that understanding of the technological trajectory, I thought the two best people to partner with to bring this to fruition would be Sean, who understands the marketplace very well, and Harrison, who has a solid background as far as extended reality technology goes. So, I think it's an opportunity to be part of essentially a game-changing approach to medical education going forward.
Now, you're known as a medical futurist, and you deal with, future things. When did this whole idea come to mind for you? A year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? When was this on your radar?
Well, I think as, extended reality technology began to develop, and mature, I think I saw the potential. And, so I would say that would have been a couple of years ago. And I remember at that time reaching out to Harrison to get a better understanding of the technology and its potential. And I guess, we've kind of come 360 now where, not only has the technology reached a point where we can actually leverage it, to develop products and services, but, I think the opportunity, more important, is there to change health and healthcare. So that's kind of the bit of history.
Now, when we all work together on the podcast, Game Changers in Medicine, you and Sean and I, to a lesser extent, we were profiling people who were already game changers, people who had made amazing discoveries going back to the turn of the 20th century. And now you guys, the three of you, are game changers. Is it a role change for you? Did you expect to be in this kind of a role in your careers, or is this something that serendipitously happened?
Well, I think, I won't say it happened serendipitously. I think, part of my job forces me to consciously look at technologies that are going to shape the future of health and healthcare. I wouldn't say it's serendipitous, and I think being able to partner with Harrison and being able to partner with Sean, it is it's a work in progress. Obviously, we think that the solutions we're proposing are going to end up being game changers. But as Mark, as we did in the Game Changers podcast, those were all underpinned by components of serendipity. But more importantly than the serendipity was the fact that these game changers actually followed a process to validate and develop evidence. So we're in that very early phase at the moment where we're trying to validate the technology and test its adoptability in the marketplace. So yeah.
So in order to make this a very successful venture, the medical community has to get behind it, as well as the consumer and the insurance companies that are helping, pay for the costs. How is the medical community responding so far? Do they have dreams and aspirations for this to be successful that you think that you guys can accomplish quickly? Or are they presenting challenges to you that are causing you to readapt as you're moving along?
Well, Mark, I think the general response to that would be whenever a new technology is introduced into health and healthcare, whether it's to improve the practice or the training, there's always an issue of adoption amongst the medical fraternity. So, that is an enduring problem that we face. However, I think that one, if we are able to impress upon healthcare professionals the value of leveraging new technology, not just to improve their skills and the way they practice, but ultimately to improve care delivery and reduce costs, I think they would be very open to embracing this. I mean, I think this is one of the things that Harrison and the tech team is working on a lot, is to make this very, very user-friendly. And I think the combination of the user-friendliness of the solution coupled with the impact it would have, would actually make adoption easier. But notwithstanding that, I think, we're in that socialization and culturalization process now, to inform the various stakeholders about the product and the potential value and impact it could have.
You mentioned various elements of the impact that it'll have, the cost effectiveness in for not only the physician, but for the patient, and the accessibility. This is a program that's accessible anywhere, and it crosses borders, it crosses languages, it crosses area of expertise. What do you hope ultimately, from your perspective, Dr. Pillay, what do you hope it will foster and change in a doctor-patient relationship so that the people that are listening today that are current or future patients will see a result that will change their interactions?
Yeah, Mark, I have absolutely no doubt that it's going to enhance the doctor-patient relationship and specifically improve the patient experience. The real value proposition of this technology is that it makes geography irrelevant in training, in care delivery. And it provides, despite distance, it provides all parties with an immersive experience. That has never been possible in health and healthcare previously. It kind of, a lot of the listeners would be familiar with traditional telehealth and telemedicine and Zoom-based consultation and FaceTime-based consultation. But one of the, real weaknesses of that is the fact that it's kind of two-dimensional and it's non-immersive. And what Harrison, Sean, and I are proposing is to really change that patient experience from a two-dimensional approach to a three-dimensional approach. And I think when it comes to care delivery, you cannot put a price on being immersed in that care delivery process. So we're confident that it's going to significantly improve patient experience. And specifically, amongst the pediatric population, that's always pretty problematic with the virtual care delivery mode.
Yeah, one of the things I'm thinking about as we're all talking is the fact that a patient won't be restricted to the nearest local physician, particularly if they live in a rural area, or their specialists that they want to see might be at a clinic thousands of miles away. This is going to certainly enhance that. And the three of you are working, technology makes it possible for the three of you to develop this product. And you're all in different parts of the country. I know that, Dr. Pillay, you're down in Alabama. Where are you, Harrison?
I'm in the Philadelphia area currently.
And Sean, you're in New York. So it gives you an opportunity, the three of you, to collaborate over thousands of miles in different time zones.
Yeah, absolutely.
It certainly does. We're living inside our own technology, I guess.
Yeah, well, and here I am in another geographical area. To think that this virtual reality will allow you to have a really good interpersonal experience, either in a training mode or in a diagnostic mode or a treatment mode, and geographies and time zones are no longer a barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key value proposition of the technology. And just to add to Harrison and Sean, I think, the way you constitute teams to be able to deliver a high value product is extremely important. And to the extent that, Sean, Harrison, and myself were able to come together, reflects that one of our underpinning philosophies is that we would put the best team together, irrespective of who they are and where they are, to be able to deliver on that. So that's all as far as the three of us go. I agree with you. I mean, as I said, distance becomes irrelevant in this technology. I think there's already kind of empirical data out there suggesting that, from a therapeutic or treatment point of view, there's already a lot of value in leveraging virtual reality. One study from Mount Sinai University not so long ago proved that virtual reality is as efficacious as opioid therapy in post-surgical patients. Now, just being able to make the transition from opioid-based analgesia to virtual reality has has a significant potential positive impact on some of the broader social issues that we're facing with addiction. So that's just one example, and then I think there are several emerging now as well in other areas of as far as treatment is concerned. So I think the value that we could bring to the health profession is kind of going to be multi-pronged. Not only will we focus on the therapeutic modalities, we will also focus on the care delivery process in terms of optimizing the virtual consultations. I think one of our immediate focus area is to focus on improving the way that physicians are trained so that ultimately will translate into better care delivery as well. So, that's, I think, the grand vision for what we want to do.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank all three of you for being here today. I'm really excited about your new project, and I hope maybe you'll come back within a year and give us a progress report of how it's going.
That would be great, Mark.
Okay. We've been chatting with Dr. Rubin Pillay. We've been chatting with Harrison Lee and Sean Moloney. And this wraps up another edition of On the Mark. Ken Stomsky has been our chief engineer today. I'm Mark Auerbach. And if you want to watch this program again, or you want to share it with friends, or share it with your favorite healthcare provider, it's archived on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. Thank you all for joining me today on the Mark. Happy New Year to the three of you. Hope you have a great upcoming year and a great success.
Thank you so much, Mark, for having us.
Okay, take care. And that wraps up another edition of On the Mark. We'll see you next week.